set, go. Let me get the participants up here too. All right. Good. All right, we got a nice, it's gonna be a nice day, people. Okay, so where did I stop before we started recording? Ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt and past girlfriends.
Yes.
So yes. All right. So basically what I wanted to do is I wanted to look at the book. It came like yesterday or the day before, and I haven't had time to look at it. It's referenced all the time, as being, just this really deep insight into, Claude Lorrain as a draftsman, and kind of like the range of approaches that he took. So it was when it was discovered, and it kind of came to light in the 1950s and 60s, it was that a revelation. And since what I've gotten to look at it, this book is a really good set of reproductions. And yeah, I think we should just dig in and see where it goes. We'll start with a picture that I sent you, and I think you'll understand why I chose it.
His style is interesting. It looks like a lot of little tick marks,
Yeah, I thought that. I mean, that
dots and
like a lot of little broken lines.
Yeah.
And not a lot of shading.
Right.
Which is like, I don't want to deal with shading today. I don't know what that's about, but the mark making felt really nice to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing is that I think it's kind of small. So I think we should try to zone out the sections in pencil. So I'll lay out, I'll put the tracing paper over it, and we'll break down, the zones. And then again, I think we should kind of lean towards being a little bit smaller. But there's I think the sheep I actually laughed when I saw the sheep because of, because of the block, like these geometric cube that they're like, there's like the front mass and then the side plane and then the top plane and the rows as they go back. I was like, oh geez. But I've had a lot of geometry on the mind and I've been teaching it a lot. So, it's exactly what would be useful. But there's something else too. I think the way that and that's the thing. I kept looking at it, and there's like a lot to sink our teeth into. And even just the entire foreground, he would repeat this foreground a lot, with these little varied foliage, grass and foliage in the foreground. And there's little bits of architecture, there's like nice tree varieties, there's nice hillsides, there's beautiful clouds. It's kind of like as Claude Lorrain as you can possibly get. And there's the animals, which was always like a nice, it's a nice variety of things to draw without being like overwhelming. I don't think it's particularly overwhelming. We could just march back. We'll break down the zones, break down the jobs per se, and then just start fumbling around with our pen. And I think at the end there'll be a nice like refrigerator piece. That was the other thing too. It's like if we do this, you can take it and put it on the refrigerator. I have in my adult class on Tuesday, there's this girl in her mid-20s, and she's lives with roommates in a house, and every week, not every week, but the weeks that we do a project that has resolution, she goes and takes it and puts it on the refrigerator, and all her roommates like really appreciate it.
Oh,
yeah, and she's really proud of it. And it's kind of like that silly cliche where putting your parents put their kids' art on the refrigerator. And but it's true. I mean, it's nice to have a piece that you can like hold up and say, I did this, and there's a lot of ideas, and it is an accomplishment. and this piece, this piece does that. And there's also like a bunch of classical principles in terms of like zoning, like the contrast of the pen, the thickness of the pen, and how, the further back, each zone has its kind of like range of lightness and darkness, darkest, second, third, fourth in the back, fifth, and then finally the clouds like off in the distance. So that'll be nice to be able to control the value contrast of the mark making. It's always just like a good skill to just practice, and then again, it's a very easy thing to kind of put into motion in real life. If you went outside or like sat at the window and drew what was out of your window, if you have large expansive pastoral fields to look at. There's good techniques in here. And who knows, it'll bring us a little closer to Claude Lorrain. Maybe not that much closer, but we'll figure out. There's a couple unknowns too, which I like really appreciate. I was looking at a slightly deeper analysis. You can see the reflections of the sheep in this little pond here. And like I'm not exactly sure where the pond ends. Like, is this water over here? Does the pond go the whole length? I think it might. Is this a bale of hay? I think it is. I don't know what, but I'm not sure. And then there's these other elements that are down here, and they might be fallen trees, like beaver trees. Is that like a stump? There is some architecture. There looks like there's like little structures back here. So there's going to be little gems that we'll get to discover along the way. And, along our path, and it's a literal path, because I think you're going to be able to follow this, the road going back through these spaces. Okay, let's have a look at the book. And we did that. We've gotten in the habit of doing that with the YouTube videos. And it's been a real joy to just kind of react to some of the pictures and point out one or two things that are particularly nice about the beast. Oh, this is the man, by the way. This is like the most hilarious drawing. How funny is that drawing?
Is that a self-portrait?
That's a self-portrait.
Oh my.
I know. I almost should not have shown it.
I don't even know.
I probably should not have shown it because it's too funny. And I don't know what to make of it.
Well, it's a bit disturbing.
Do you guys want to see it? Do you guys want to see
it?
What's that?
It's almost a caricature.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, he's not a wait. I mean, it looks like a freaking self-portrait. 1596. Oh, wait. Okay, maybe somebody else drew this. That makes me happy. Okay. I think somebody else may have made this drawing. Claude Lorrain, Lorenze, Bassini, National Day. Look what it says down here. Natadel, 1596. Would bet his birthday, 96, and then died on 1658.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
more
makes sense.
feelings.
So somebody else must have done his portrait off of his painting. It's the only way. It's got to be. It's got to be. This was going to be used to make an etching. This was a drawing used to make an etching for like the front of his book. But it's done in the style of the self-portrait. Hold on, I got to get to the bottom of this. This is going to take forever. Sorry, I want to get started. I had a self-portrait fall out of one of my books. I was like assembling my library downstairs, and there were these papers sticking out of it, and there's like some random self-portrait that I thought my friend Peter did it. I texted it to him. I was like, Peter, look at this portrait. He goes, that's a great self-portrait. I'm like, I didn't draw this. And I looked at it further. I'm like, did I draw this? I still am not sure. That was during my ancient Egyptian study days.
Oh.
Let's see.
So was that like a little tease, or do we get to see it?
Oh, good point. Claude Lorrain self-portrait. They didn't, the French doesn't translate very well in my voice command. Okay, so that's a little bit better. Let me actually get the spelling right. The autocorrect cannot handle Lorraine. Lorrain. It freaks out. All right, images. So this, that's not very flattering. So this looks like the self-portrait. So that
Yeah,
looks like him, right?
Oh, yeah, that's a little better.
Yeah, that's the one I just found too.
Yeah, definitely more respectable.
Yeah,
And then, but this is,
big,
yeah, then
like,
they keep doing this too. Now this would be, that seems more,
oh.
he's like, oh, you can't see my painting. I'm covered with my cloak. I shouldn't put words in his mouth. Now this is the one that I've always known him from, which is also the least flattering. Now he didn't do this, of course,
Oh my
but
God.
somebody did this. Somebody that did not like him. Some jealous soul. What were they going to put him on, like the $5 bill or something? Honestly, this looks way better on the screen than it does on my phone. There, that's what it looks. The further away you get, the more awkward it becomes. Or Claude. Yeah. So I guess that's at this period. I guess at this point, that's why you had to do a bunch of self-portraits, so that you could accurately get your image down for posterity. All right, so we're going to be coming back to these a lot. Does the print that I gave you have a number in the corner?
17.
Really?
Well, mine does.
Yeah, same.
Landscape.
Yeah. Why is this not right? It's not lining up. So, 16, 17. Oh, that's right. We got it. All right.
So he used a pen, huh?
I think so. Black chalk, underdrawing, and then pen. So that's nice. We'll do a pencil underpainting with pen. So should I just read it? The scene of the drawing leaves no doubt that it was done from nature. The pen strokes are strong and broad in the area of large plants among the bottom, when become finer with each plane. Okay, yeah, the pen strokes become finer each like plane distance away, until they each in the foliage of the trees, the unusual. I might just have to send this to you. The pen. Oh wait, I have a device. The device here. Oh my gosh, watch this. I think this is my dyslexia mastery thing. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, nice, right? The scenery of this drawing leaves no doubt that it was done from nature. The pen strokes are strong and broad in the area of large plants along the bottom then become finer with each plane until they reach in the foliage of the trees the usual delicate pattern of dots, which is like an anticipation of some mid-19th century trends. All of the motifs of this view, beginning with the main accent, the central haystack. Okay, so it is a central haystack, are rendered in compact forms. The plants, the flocks, the platform below the haystacks. There's a platform below the haystack we haven't seen. The trees and the hills. The technique of pure pen favoring precision and clarity occurs most frequently in the late 50s and the 60s. Okay, that's cool. This pure use of the medium and the constructive solidity, which have taken the place of the earlier brilliant vigor of handling, also characterize the late and the first sight. So different. Natural drawing number 8. Okay, I don't know what that means. How wide the amplitude, so he's not even talking about, of Claude's art can be seen at the same time by showing by comparison with number 2. So I guess he's saying there's a wide breadth. So this guy is not really telling us a whole lot of information. He's just like pontificating. So this one apparently is from Nature. I almost consider doing this one too. There's ton of figures in here.
Oh, yeah.
I guess they're by a well. It looks like it's a well. Now, the main difference between this piece and the one that we've been looking at is the lack of ink wash. So there's no wash on ours, which I think makes it kind of nice. Oh, I almost thought about doing this one too. God. Yeah, so this one doesn't have the ink wash. He could have easily, I mean, I think it probably describes more about his process than, I mean, maybe he did refine it to the point where he didn't actually even need the wash. Or he was trying to communicate like a different time of day. Yeah,
Such a different feel to it with the
all
wash.
all three of these have very distinct vibes. Yeah, for sure. I mean, those trees are something.
Look at the numbers all the way down around the edge.
Yeah. So that's another interesting thing. And I'll show a couple other pieces that he breaks down the rectangle. Like on the golden section. He'll break, and I'm not sure whether it is a matter of gridding out. There's a technique where you would actually like set up basically a wooden window plane, like a rectangle, like a frame, and you would have like wires or strings gridded up at intervals, and then I think this really has more to do with transferring. I think he took the drawing and then he scaled it up to a painting. So he just, divided it into, 11 units by 6 units and then gridded this off. But there's no actual lines on top of it. So I wonder if he like laid tracing paper down. I'm not sure. Let me show you some of these. Let's just keep going. The book really does reveal a incredibly wide range of this one is so, but his The strength isn't the figure, but this is particularly bizarre. I mean, he must have been like 7 when he did this one. This is 1675. So bizarre. Maybe he didn't do this one. Can you imagine if they started out the book with a tree? That must be a rooftop, but it reads like a pyramid. So what we're kind of using, we should guess what I'm saying is that we'll relate the image that you have. You should always have that like in your mind, and we'll just have a look and see how we can compare the two. You know, what does this picture have that our reference doesn't? We'll use the reference as a benchmark. So, okay, great. Let me change my settings really quickly on my display. 2 minutes. So now my phone will never time out, so I don't have to keep going back in. Yes.
So this one shows a lot more contrast because of the ink wash.
Right, exactly. But it's not without the line weight hierarchy. So, you know, in the bottom, you know, the bottom landscape, the figures take the place of like the shrubs. You know, so this is the foliage in the bottom in our other picture. Then there's like the main landscape, and we do like go back into space and look at how almost like thick and aggressive the lines are here, and then they progressively get, you know, with this cluster of trees, they are lighter. I mean, this is darker than this, and then you're going back even to more delicate lines in that distant landscape. It is amazing, this like kind of, you know, I mean that block of trees takes up more than half of the entire picture. That's kind of interesting.
I love the rocks in the foreground. They're really well done.
Yeah, and it's interesting because like you have the land, the flat road that the figures are on, and then their background are these rocks, which, you know, in a sense, the rocks really become part of this scene. So like you could cut off the scene with the figures in the ground, but they're really, you know, the rocks in the background really kind of belong to the foreground, and then, you know, the trees are in the middle ground. Yeah, those are really nice. Look at this like shadow that goes on there. Wow. You know, the washes do create a lot of opportunity, you know, for depth and, you know, defining a light source, and, you know, another layer of controlling the contrast. This one is so curious. So I think there may be some, you know, this is done kind of in the vein of our piece. Obviously no figures. And then look at this, like, it almost looks like a maypole, or, you know, like and I can't, I've been studying this and I can't tell whether it's, you know, bleeding through from a previous drawing and not meant to be part of this piece like at all. But at the same time, it's like the center line is like the exact center of the picture. And do you see so it seems to be like some kind of mark making. And then look at the arches this way. So it almost makes like this globe, or this, you know, this elliptical 3-dimensional line drawing in the. So it feels out of place for the landscape, you know, and nondescript, but let me see if I can find, it's not without precedent. So hold on, let's just, Cavaliers. This is a whole nother, like an entirely different mood. Let me just find the where he does show the. Oh, it was not that big. There's a pockets. So here's another composition where he, establishes the center line, right through the middle of the picture. There's no this. I think this was created for these perspective lines on the ground plane to establish that. But I mean, look how he puts the tree trunk on this back tree right in the center as well. So he's breaking up the rectangle based on geometry, and there's overt examples of this coming up. These his like gray paper or the blue paper with the white chalk highlights, it's like absolutely fascinating. Look at this one. This one is like 2 studies, so this is like a lower study, and then that's a distant study. But it feels like it's it feels like a city in the clouds. Classic Claude Lorrain. I didn't. Oh wow, this is one of his. There's this piece of architecture that was a monument. It was like a monumental piece of architecture that marked the spot of the martyrdom of Saint Beatrice, I believe. Anyway, so Claude Lorrain, I guess, invented the port scene. Like he was the first one to like master these images of seaports. And some of these sketches of the ships are just stunning. There's a allegory. I didn't realize it was this deep. There's the baptism. There, look at this one. So Adele, this might be helpful. This might be interesting. I don't know if this is a grid for the sake of the rectangle or if this is a grid for the sake of perspective. Is
Well,
it like
he doesn't follow it.
Scaling up, or is this for yeah, what were you gonna say?
He doesn't follow those lines as a perspective. If you look at the steps on the left, they don't follow those perspective lines. So I don't think that's and the horizon is lower than the than the intersection point of the diagonal. So
Right.
I don't think it's a perspective study.
Yeah, I'm following this one.
Yeah.
And then this one.
And they don't even meet.
They don't. Unless that's a point. No, that's not even a point.
No, the vanishing point should be on the horizon. So.
Right. Well, it's like, is that the horizon up there, or is that the horizon down there?
True, and if he's standing on higher ground, then that also will mess up the the perspective.
Yeah, and then you have like the perspective of like the sea versus like you're kind of stepping up onto the shore and you're stepping up even higher onto the building. So each one of those levels has a slightly different.
Right, there's the eye line in perspective. So wherever the person who is looking at the scene, that's where the vanishing point will be on the eye line. So that may or may not be the physical horizon in the picture.
Yes, because he would be above it.
Yeah. But that still doesn't work with that crisscross.
No. There's another one. This is just this epic rendering of these ships.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that is, and like a whole nother style. I mean, just like a completely different, I mean, that feels like it's a different person. And there's half of me that thinks maybe it is. I mean, he may have like commissioned it. Because that was like super common. Look at this one. So this is another one of my, this is, you can see the ghost, he breaks the whole piece down into half, and he breaks it down on the horizontal. You can actually pick that off, and then he breaks this quarter down. So he basically breaks it into, quarters and then into eighths. And, I don't know if there's any geometric correlation. It looks like this cluster of trees goes along this diagonal, which is counter to that one. There's a horizontal on this diagonal here, but I don't even think that's the halfway. But you can see this ghost of a horizontal along here, which is the edge, which is the bottom of this tree, and it's the top of all of these figures. Like there's this diagonal here, which is on the diagonal of the whole, which gets you the trunk of that tree.
So Trevor, this was the one that I was thinking of. Is this the same artist? Do you remember this one?
I do. I think it is. I mean, I'm 90% sure it is. I think that was back before my obsession.
It says Saint Mary of Egypt receiving communion.
Oh, who's the prodigal son? It looks just like Peter.
I like that one.
Mm-hmm. I mean, isn't there something so familiar about this? Or like so modern. I feel like that was done in like 1960 in like a children's book in the 1960s. You can see these ghosts. Oops, sorry. Again, he's breaking this down into half and then into quarters. And then in the half as well. You can actually see the ghost. Do you see those ghost lines in there? There's like a little faint vertical. And then you can actually, and then there's a line at the base of that mountain, which is not the middle, but and who knows, it could have just been the way that the painting, the drawing was folded at some point, but I don't think so. I just think it's interesting when you just showing when he just reveals his acknowledgement of his awareness of the rectangle and how he, every artist, comes up with, like little signature arrangements. I wanted to go back. Here's another. This is a pen, an ink drawing that has very delicate washes. So, not super high contrast, but still with the, he does ink it afterwards with the brush. That might be a figure right there. All right, well, this is I looked at another piece that Stacy, remember the painting of Stacy might not be here, but I did this, interpretation of a Claude Lorrain full-size painting, and you know, it had a very similar like, outcropping, like a mountaintop on this side. And you kind of wound up a low hill on the right side, but all the perspective kind of just changed because it pushed everything back and made everything larger with these beautiful waterfalls.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's like this subgenre of his art of the, you know, the blue paper with the white chalk highlights. This doesn't seem to have the highlights. But... Those lambs are so funny. All right, so we might have to come back here to, you know, look at the like slightly more detailed version of a lamb so that we can intelligently edit down our flock. So there's the whole flock in our picture. And these are, you know, sizable. I mean, these are like large sheep. So we can kind of figure out what he uses to, you know, draw the sheep. You know, their bodies, their bodies are so funny. You know, just get a ratio between, you know, the head and the neck, and then the neck and the body, and like the size of the legs coming out of the body. This is kind of, this might give us a nice standard. Here's our, this is the foliage in the foreground. You know, you kind of like enter over the bottom of the picture plane, the bottom of the rectangle, you enter into, you know, kind of this grassy knoll, and then into the stage. And then you have the figures on the stage, and then the animals in the background, and then the backdrop, which kind of brings you all the way off into the distance. This is definitely more of a stage set, you know, than a landscape, even though there's the elements of the landscape in there. It's the narrative between the figures that take precedent. Yeah, these are just such nice little intimate. They remind me of this picture evokes, you ever seen people that work on you know, like train models, or like little, like some like some men enjoy like painting little figurines of soldiers and then setting up different, like recreating little battles.
Yeah,
You know, like I don't know what that's called. That's what this type of drawing reminds me of, you know, where you're having a, you know, the figures are so small and you're seeing such a large area. It's just like kind of a bird's eye view sort of, which I hadn't considered before. Maybe it's just the relationship between this figure and the tree, and then these two other figures. This character, this woman has a, she's got a lot going for her. Okay, so this was the other one. This is the one that I'm really was thinking of before. So you can see the you know, this is kind of a unique rectangle that we haven't faced, like such an aggressively wide rectangle in terms of height width ratio. This is an absolute master drawing. He was in the zone. I would like to look into this. We've got our foreground. Look at our foreground, how it takes up halfway. So it's the exact same grove that's in our picture. And the, you know, the path, you know, it's a dark grove up against a light background, immediately followed by, you know, like a dark platform. Anyway, so just looking at that rectangle, you have these, you can see the ghost of the diagonal from, you know, corner to corner. And he seems to be much more there's much more intention towards integrating the you know, the elements in the picture with you know, the breakdown of the rectangle. You can actually see how like this grove of trees, like almost creates this arrow. I mean, yes, it comes up a little bit, but like the mass of it, you know, is taking on, you know, that geometry. And then the crest of this mountain, you know, this actual triangle of landscape architecture and mountain, you know, foliage, mountain, and foreground relate really intentionally to the landscape, to the rectangle rather. The landscape relates to the subjects relate to the rectangle. Yeah, not in an obnoxious way, not in an obsessive way, but just a very well organized composition. Look at this gutter. Look at this incredible gutter of sky that goes between the architecture and the trees in the foreground, and how that contrast, you know, the darkness of the trees and the lightness of those buildings. You know, this could create a lot of tension, but it's just managed perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Nice consistent light source. He's got his birds. It's so funny. You know, big, medium, small.
He's got those in this one too.
What's that?
He's got those same birds in the one you sent us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and this could have been the same period. I mean, look, I mean, if you look at the mound of foliage, you know, that you enter into the picture, I mean, it's almost like, it's not exact, but it's like same vibes.
Right.
No haystack. Yeah, and this was a medieval mountain. It was a medieval castle that there's the region that he liked to sketch in. That, you know, he was, you know, he's known for, you know, integrating, you know, the observed with the invented. You know, so he plucked the. He was a romantic. He idealized without, but, you know, based on nature, and the artists love him for his imitation of nature, which is, I don't know if it's the imitation of nature or the conditions of nature. I mean, look at like, can you see that the you know, this epic light is coming from, you know, the right side here? So the light is actually beyond these trees. So all of these trees are essentially backlit, you know, in shadow, and then you know, the architecture receives the light. So this is the light side of this wedge here, and then this is the shadow side of this wedge. So this wedge here is an exact echo of this wedge here. It's just they're both kind of backlit clusters, you know, close, medium, and then far. And then this is, you know, obviously in the light. This one is obviously in the light, and then the you know, the clouds, you know, follow suit with light side, shadow side. And it looks like even in this corner, like the light is still is you know, is still coming down in front of this cluster of trees here. But that tree here, I mean, that would, you could spend an hour or so on that, just that one tree, and you'd be satisfied.
Can you send us a picture of that one,
Mm-hmm.
please?
Yeah.
I'm looking for it online and I can't find it.
Let's see. I'll send you all a photo. But then
Great.
I'll find that we can also read about this one. So one of the things I've been learning is the portrait mode on your phone really gets you to it forces you to zoom out, and it forces you to pull out and then pull back, and then the camera zooms in automatically.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's really good.
Hmm.
It's really, really good.
Whoa, did he do these figures?
No,
Okay.
that's from another book.
I know, Stace, I was thinking that same thing because it doesn't look like him.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't.
Those are great figures.
This one is such a treat. I mean, that
I
is,
love that one.
and that's where you get. This is an example of an artist that, you know, no one's like. I mean, maybe some people know about him, but I mean, he is like Jan Levins. Let me look that up. Basically, Claude Lorrain had a huge influence on all these people too.
Oh my goodness, the top picture on the left,
Yeah.
is that next to, I'm gonna say the mother. Wow, is that like a little the equivalent of today's walker for a little toddler, you know, like they
Yeah. Definitely.
oh wow. I mean, it looks like a little cage.
Yeah.
Who's the artist on the left?
Let's see. Hold on. Hold. Please hold. Okay, then.
Interesting.
Did you want, Adele, would you prefer me to text it or email it?
Doesn't matter, whatever's easiest.
Text messages here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Go right through, and Stacy and Maureen, you should have it as well.
Okay.
So his name is, the guy's name is Adrian Van Ostade, Ostade, Ostad.
The one on the left is
Yeah,
Austin.
both of them. Both of them.
Yeah.
And I was gonna and actually let's just bring this up right now because it does actually have an application and you can find out what period he is, but I didn't mean for the class to take it's kind of like technical term, but look at the let me zoom in on this one. So the way that the guy presented the content, this is a very loose sketch, possibly done from life. A study of a family portrait. Yeah, this is like, these are like real people, and he had to get all these people in a situation. So this is like step one in terms of gesture. This would be an example of a gesture drawing. You're just like doing a couple ovals, a couple dots for the eyes, whatever. And then there's a next level refinement, which is this guy, which is so fun. And this is where you have the props, you have the you like, look how well thought out and executed, these are like still life objects. There's the backgammon or whatever game they're playing, there's the jug, there's the tripod, stool, the various things that they're sitting on. And then these characters, which are actually tronies. I mean, these are not real people per se. They're not nameable people, where the people up here are actually nameable. But the point is that your approach to drawing, from life versus, compositional refinement, with the pen, this is a ink drawing, line drawing mostly, that has some ink. Now, this is 5x7. This next one is 6x8. And it is, it's like the nativity scene, I think.
Yeah.
Or the adoration of the shepherds. Yeah, let me move this out. It might be a little, this guy seems to have a wicked sense of humor. So I don't know if there's anything interesting going on in here, but this is, the same artist in a different phase, where the drama of the lighting is so crucial. And he's got this light source in here, and actually I have to send this to Bob afterwards. Anyway, so it's creating like this light domes. All these characters are kind of illuminated. Christ and Mary, Joseph, and then, you know, the shepherds that are, you know, kneeling and observing, all ages, older, a little bit more roughed up. You've got a goat back here, which is bizarre, unless it's supposed to be the ox. There's the ass back here, which is the, you know, and then you have the structure of the you know, the manger up there. Oh,
Is
the
that
manger.
what they
The
are?
manger is
Two
this, right?
animals
Is the manger?
flanking?
Yeah, the manger is what he's lying in, and that's, I
Yeah,
guess,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
the
And
barn.
I'm looking at this at whether it's like the bench prop or the stool prop from the other one that they were using, you know, that he was like, you know, sketching. All right. And then we're gonna go to the third one because this is actually a party, literally a party. It's called the Gay Company. And, you know, this couple seems to be getting together. That I would question the shape of that jug for sure. And then she's having a look at what she's going to get later.
Yeah, but that looks like the back of him, but look at the shape of his arm. Looks like he's
Oh my
He's-
goodness.
forward.
he's relieving himself
Yeah,
That's his
outside
arm.
of the arbor.
That's
She's-
his arm.
his
she's
arm
like-
looks so weird.
It's
Weird.
he's got his hand, his wrist is like this.
Why would he be doing that if he's trying to go potty?
Wait,
I think
show me
his,
what is
his left
there's
arm,
this-
his left arm is handling his manhood, and his right. This is his thumb. If you like put your hand back like that, then
Oh,
that's why the hand looks awkward. I mean, I'm telling you, this guy is not the greatest artist of all time. That's why it's so good. Sometimes when you want the principles, like when you want when the techniques kind of hang out, and you're not with Claude Lorrain, you're just faced with this man's genius and the weight of the greatness of him. Where here, you're not weighted down by, you know, history and,
yeah.
you know, brilliance. You know, it's good. I mean, it's good. He understands. I mean, he's got a wonderful sense of humor. He's bringing other things to the table. Than what Claude Lorrain is doing. It's just it's a different vibe. But this is it's a really fun progression of drawings to go from, you know, the portrait gesture to kind of like the staged card game amongst, you know, generic, you know, people, to the historical narratives, and then to a, you know, kind of a contemporary comedy. And he's just going through all of it. And the progression of the pen and ink, you know, changes along with the subject. It's really spectacular. I'm gonna see if I can find yeah, this book is this is interesting. This is 1644. So this came after, you know, this is after Claude Lorrain. Well after. Or I guess would this be a contemporary? Maybe it's a contemporary. Can anybody find out where Claude Lorrain lived or was born? He lived his whole life in Rome, but I don't think he was Italian. It sounds like a French name. I'm just looking to see if they're including any of his works in this portfolio. But it's interesting. These are all landscapes from the same period as Claude Lorrain. This one doesn't have a year. So annoying. These are all Dutch painters. And the Dutch did send a lot of people down to Rome to study the architecture and the classics. And that's what people wanted, the romanticized versions of, they had all this recently discovered
So I found a New York Times
classical
article
Greek content.
on, I found a New York Times article on Claude Lorrain.
Uh-huh.
And they
Hopefully you
say,
can read, hopefully you read better than I do.
what little is known of the artist's life sheds no light on the subject. Possibly born around 1604, 1605, Claude, who was trained as a pastry cook, according to one source, left Lorraine. He left Lorraine with his elder brother Jean, a maker of intarsia, which is a type of marquetry. After staying some time in Freiburg in Breisgau, the brothers went to Rome, where Claude entered the service of painter Agostino Tassi, apparently in a menial capacity. The boy, still in his teens, then worked for a year in Naples with the German landscape painter Gottfried Walz, and came back to Tassi, this time to train in his studio for 5 years. And it goes on, but so that's...
So where was he born? In Lorraine? Where's Lorraine?
Yeah, Lorraine is like Alsace, Lorraine, on the east-western edge of France.
Okay, so it's Western.
That disputed area between France and Germany.
Yeah.
His native Lorraine briefly tempted the young artist, hired to work as an assistant by Claude Derouet. He took part in the execution of frescoes in a Carmelite chapel, but the call of Rome proved irresistible.
I did know about the fresco training. And my book said that he was born in 1600, but maybe it was actually a little bit later than that. Do you guys want to draw the figures instead? Or do you want to?
Which figures?
Or do you want to keep going? Or you want to keep going with this one?
Which figures?
Oh, Mr. Bales, you want to go down? Oh, you can go down. That's a question. I don't know. I don't know if I can switch over. I think we should stick with the regular one.
I'll do whatever that you guys want to do.
Yeah, I'm in that same boat.
Unless I wouldn't mind modifying to sketch this bad boy. That one, I mean, this one might be like an epic adventure. We might even be able to just perhaps.
Okay.
I think we could probably do like this corner. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's up to you all. I'm game. I'm game for whatever.
Yeah, I'm with Rini. I'm good with the flow.
I'm interested in your analysis of this one.
Okay.
I am too, Adele. I like the markings in this. It's just
The variety,
yeah.
Yeah.
the
Okay.
line rate.
Well, let's break it down, and then once it's broken down, whether we finish it today or not, it'll be like I think it'll be like a comforting homework project. All right. Did I really do that?
So am I remembering correctly? Did you in fact suggest that we draw this small? And if so, what is your suggestion as far as small?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think we should just have a look at let's find out how big it actually is.
I don't know how to draw small.
You did last week.
I know, I kind of did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stacy, can I get a fact check from you?
Yeah.
Can you just Google millimeters to inches?
Yeah.
And then find that thing. It's 158 by 220. I think if you divide it by like 30, I think it's like
You're asking me to do a math project?
I mean, yeah, you just have to look up the calculator.
Did you say millimeter to inches?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the thing is, when it comes to doing a calculator, the people that aren't that good at math are always the best ones because they have to use the calculator the most. That's
Well, I guess I'm the exception.
why.
1 millimeter is 0.0394 inch, right?
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah.
So according to my calculations, 158 millimeters is roughly 6 inches, 6.29 inches. No, I'm just kidding. Do you know how much it is?
I'm trying.
You want to take the millimeters times how many inches?
It's just 158 millimeters. How many inches is that? I'm just trying.
One 158 millimeters, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
How many
6.22.
inches is 158 millimeters?
6 inches, 6 inches and 6.2.
I got it right. I was like 6.2 inches, and it's 6.2, 6.22 inches.
Yeah.
Oh, I am good. According to my
And-
So
calculations.
And what's
That
why
was
was
on
it-
record, by the way. That was officially on record. That I nailed that conversion in my estimated head.
what's the other dimension?
How many inches is 222 millimeters? Question mark.
8.7.
Nice.
You can
Yeah, so
go-
it's like
you
it's
can-
basically 6 by 9. So let me look at my.
Okay,
Let me measure this thing.
Measure it,
Let me
measure it.
Measure.
So, sorry about that, Trevor.
No, it's okay. You should. Siri.
I'm
Siri.
having a meltdown on this end.
I'm so
well,
sorry.
I did print it and I measured it and this print came out 6.9. So,
Whoa, so this is life size.
yeah,
It's like slightly larger than life size.
a little more than 6 and 9 across the bottom. So that's probably how I will draw it.
Okay. So this is one. That's 1 inch.
Excuse me. Wow, and that feels huge to me.
Yeah, that's almost the whole piece of paper. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe halves it. Halves it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah.
it might depend on your brushes too.
Brush.
Or
you
not
say-
brush, sorry, pen. It might
Oh.
whatever size your pen is. Like I'd actually try a thicker pen earlier, and then just like if you have did everybody get the pen set? Yeah, it's like
What, what
thick-
pen set?
thick to thin.
I
Yes, that would be
apologize.
That would be a no on my part. Did you send a pen set suggestion?
It was on the supply list at the beginning of the semester.
Oh,
I never got that.
I'm just kidding.
Really, was it on a supply list? I just started a week ago.
It just sucked me in. And Rini.
Yeah, it must have gotten lost. Maybe the email is in your spam
Yeah.
folder. You might want to check the spam folder.
Oh,
Thanks.
boy, oh, boy.
Well,
Well, if you think that would be beneficial, perhaps you could give us a little more intel.
I don't have
Well,
any.
Really,
Really, couldn't agree more.
really.
I know.
well, Grace put a little pen set in my Christmas stocking, so maybe I have the
Yeah.
right.
See, Grace got the memo. She's always
Well,
right.
she's
Oh,
she's
boy.
organization.
She's
Oh
always right.
my gosh, that's just what we need to hear.
Adele,
Okay.
did you and Grace know each other before?
We're
Oh,
sisters. We're
Did you and
sisters.
Grace know each other before art?
We're sisters.
What?
I'm sisters.
You and Grace are sisters?
mind blown. Mind blown.
How did I not know that?
Rini,
Stacy, you're supposed to keep me informed.
Rini, you're the one that's always informed.
What the? Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
He's been telling me for years about how much she loves this class.
Yeah,
And when it went to Zoom, she thought I could join. And yes,
yeah.
because I'm in the DC area, so I'm not that local.
Oh, I didn't know that either. Oh my gosh, my mind is blown.
So she's been telling you this for years. Where you been?
Where have
Well,
I been?
We've only been on Zoom for 2 years.
That's true.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well,
It's only been 2 years.
I wondered how we got so lucky to get two really nice people. Now I know why.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've been pitting them
Yes.
against each other on the sibling rivalry angle this whole time. I've been trying to maximize their potential.
you're not going to succeed in sibling.
I know. I am. Okay, so let's see what we got.
So I think that 4x6 would work on a small
Okay.
pad.
Yes, I agree.
4x6. Wait.
I already
wait,
drew
wait.
my frame of 6x9. I'm sticking to it.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, this is like it will snow. I did 4x6.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, that's hello.
You're a nice 4x6er.
Thank
It's
you.
not-
Someone can give me kudos. I will take it.
Yep.
Kudos.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is so interesting because if you don't have a frame that you have to start with,
Yeah.
where I would how I was going to recommend starting is by establishing this horizontal
Right.
along the bottom, so you at least where the bottom of your picture is.
Yep. I
Now,
did
if
that.
you started with an exact rectangle, like you may have to use get your center axis, where get your very center. And this haystack, which we're going to call this trapezoid plus a this kind of like dome, this like curving dome, break that into two parts. That is basically dead center. And it's so dead center that I'm wondering if he did use that first. You know what I mean? Like I had, because there's two different approaches, because you don't have a rectangle or you do have a rectangle. And when you go out into the landscape, you can start finding an object and build around it, or you can start with the ground plane and go back. Eventually you're going to have to choose what your rectangle is, but usually it's based on what you want to include. So this idea of like starting with a rectangle and then placing your objects relative to, with an awareness of that rectangle, or just starting off like, I'm going to draw until I'm developing like this sense of what I want to include and what I want to leave out. So it's almost like going out into nature with a camera, and you can angle it this way and that way, up, down, left, right, if you find something, and then take the picture. Here, I think this is a higher degree of refinement. So I think in a way, he might actually be starting with a rectangle. So this is actually really wonderful that that even came up. So however we do this, I'm just going to I'm going to enter into the picture plane. So the picture plane is the rectangle. So we're moving from an alternate dimension into a new world. And we're going to just kind of point out what those component parts are. And the first one, as we enter in, is this, and I'm going to use this S curve because it repeats a number of times. You see that S, that slow roll, this little beautiful arc, and then it kind of cuts down here. You know, it's almost like a secondary moment. It has to close itself off. So there's this S curve, you know, that happens with our foliage. And that is, I'm just going to put a 1 there. And that becomes like, I don't know if whether we're on, you know, Claude Lorrain is like sitting on this little island. There's this little man-made lake that has to do with this machinery plant. But they built an island in the middle, and it's got trees, and there's a bench on it, and like it's like totally man-made. And it's so cute up in this place in Western New York. And it's like, you know, the island might be the size of, you know, maybe like 30 feet by like 20 feet or something. So enough to be amusing for a child, but not like a real island. Anyway, so it's almost like he's in the middle of this man-made island on this pond. So there's that S curve that takes on the silhouette of the landscape. And then let's just see where we can get the edge of the banks. And I really desperately wanted it to be another S curve, but I think he gives us the variation. So I'm seeing this angle, and then it angles back down, and I'm just going to use those two. You know, do you think there's a curve along here where the sheep are?
A little bit.
I don't know.
I
I like the idea of overly simplifying at the moment. And if we want to like make the sheep like bow as they enter into the water and like let the bank bow a little bit, that's fine. But we're going to get this left side, and it hits this axis point. I'm not sure if it relates to anything else, and then it's going to angle back down there. That's nice. Yeah, it's really nice, actually. So this becomes our water. You know, this is the space between is the water. And kind of the main event, the action, is our set of
sheep.
And I thought my green was working, but it's not working well enough. So we're gonna overly simplify the sheep, and I am gonna use that arc because I do think that they bow in here and where their mouths are touching. So that's the front plane. This is the side plane, which I think is a little bit more obvious. You know, this side row. And then like perspective, you know, they're kind of fanning out, meaning they're widening out as they get to the water because they're spreading out. And then the sheep are coming into this narrow path. So the sheep are kind of getting more condensed, and more like in a, you know, it gets narrower towards the back. And it'll be interesting. I mean, we've got the front row, and then maybe the second, and you know, they're all going to be staggered, but the, you know, set of sheep. I probably shouldn't even have done that much. I'm just going to actually erase this. I just like the fact that we can see that he's conceiving of this flock as one singular geometric form, which really works nicely. So I feel like our S curve brings us over to the right. You know, enter in here, it switches to the right. You know, you have this really harsh, hard vector. You know, the direction of these sheep, you know, really pull the eye into the water. You know, and you almost get caught up here. You know, you get caught up in the large, you know, bold, high contrasty foliage, and then all the activity of the sheep. And I'm wondering if because he unifies the sheep so much that maybe he was trying to subdue them a little bit. Like the fact that there's so many, the fact that he put them in such an ordered fashion that maybe it actually reduced the impact of all of those sheep. Not sure. But I think at this point, we really want to find the next kind of directional indicator. And that's going to be the path that they came in on. Ironically, the path that they came in on is going to be the path that brings us away from, and you can see that he flattens it out here. So you have this little plane. So the sheep had come up the hill and turned the corner and wrapped in. So this is kind of the vector, the bend wrapping around that hill. And this, I would say, kind of, that combined with our haystack completes, there's this little variation here. When the whole field that happens inside here, it's got all these wonderful directional moments and, textures and shadows and, glyphs. We're all going to get to that, but I'm going to call this, I'm going to call the sheep 2. So we'll do the sheep 2 and the lake. And then the path and the haystack with this field, I'm going to call that 3. You could almost say that the sheep is like almost like, you could say the field is 2. Let's just do that. Let's say the field is 2, and then we'll call the sheep like 2A, because they're almost like different elements. The haystack is an element. The haystack might be 2B, but this whole zone of the path and the sheep and the field and the haystack, they're all within a certain distance away from the eye. Cool. And this is where we're going to get in. I was showing what I was talking about. Remember in the very beginning, let me just put it up here, this first one where the oval composition, and I think this will help clarify where my head is with the here's our oval composition. So the half of me wants to say that the zone 1 is the ground and these the figures, it's actually Joseph and Mary, I think. So there's a baby and that's a donkey. So that's Mary and Joseph, and Mary and Jesus and Joseph, coming in, walking. I mean, that's a symbol. But these rocks here, they really are the background for this composition, and then the trees are behind that. The reason I bring that up relative to ours is that these trees here, this house, these trees, their zone is cut off by the distant hill. So so I don't want to draw a silhouette of all of these trees to define the next zone, but I'm going to call zone 3 all of this. So this whole plane is zone 3. And that gives us the edge of the road, perhaps, at least the shadow, but moving us back into some architecture and some trees in here. There's this little house that brings us back in. So again, there's all these wonderful details, these wonderful trees. Wow, look at that tree. Oh my goodness. That is going to be a blast. That tree is going to be spectacular. This whole zone 3 is going to be amazing. And I wonder if I should not have included the haystack in the foreground. I'm going to put the haystack in the 3rd zone, because that's really where it is. So it's the zone 2 is the sheep and the field. Zone 3 is this big, almost, the road and the trees and the house. It's just the next section as we go back. And these mountains, I might even include, this could be, this mountaintop up here could be 3A. This mountaintop up here could be 3B. And then there's even a distant landscape where I think those are clouds. I think that's another mountain. We'll call that 3C. Yeah, I think that makes more sense, because zone 4 is going to be the distant landscape and the mountains that describe the end of land and the exposure to sky. So we'll do the sky as being the 5th plane. So those are the jobs. And that's the way that it's divided in the space. And it's a lot, it's a lot to do, but it's definitely doable. But the breakdown of the landscape into these component parts is very profound. It's taking something that's infinitely complex. I mean, if you look at the infinity of the leaves and the marks that are happening in there, and you think, my God, how could you compose it, everything? We've broken it down into 5 distinct sections. And there's a lot of flexibility within each one of those, actually. So we're not married to the proportions. I mean, you could have a whole different rectangle, and it would be fine. I wonder what this looks like. I just want to show the simplified version. Yeah, and I wish I had better colors. That's not that much to draw. I have to say. Let's try to get this. I'm actually literally going to try to draw this and not look at the landscape. So good. Please be halfway. Please make it halfway. Please make it halfway. Put this over here. All right, so I'm going to stay true to what I was planning on doing, which is to sketch light, to sketch small. I don't know if I'm going to be able to have both at once. Could I?
Would you get the hay bale in the center first?
With pencil?
Yep.
Yeah. Because if you look at the hay bale and then you follow the arc, like you start from the hay bale and you take the arc and you wrap around the bend, that'll get you your sheep. And then the sheep will get you the edge of the stream. And then the distance between the sheep and the island, then you'll have that. I'm just trying to think if I could actually draw off of the phone, because it would be smaller. It's almost too small.
Excuse me.
I might just have to draw this, people. And not have the, not have both being on the screen. I think that would be, I think we can live with that. This does make me very happy. Said you only edit this part out. It's boring. How am I going to do this? Almost. Almost. Closer. Closer. Goodness, it's happening. It take a little bit longer than I was expecting. I apologize. Alright, so did you guys finish already?
Oh, yeah. Not. Adele, you're pretty fast. How are you coming along?
Actually,
Don't even.
no, it's fun to just sort of ghost in those big areas that of the blocking of the scene.
Yeah, yeah.
That's really helpful.
Okay, so this is the top. This is the bottom. So the bottom's good. I need a. I'm gonna make it smaller.
See, this is really helpful. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Let's
You
take
know,
a
with-
peek.
Did you
Okay,
do that?
Apple-
Did you do that or did I do that?
I did it with my Apple Pencil on my iPad,
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
nice. Yeah,
following you when you were
Yeah,
And then I did the diagonals and the
that's great.
the midpoint and the horizon across the middle, and that's
Like,
really instructive.
yeah,
Sure.
like how he would. Like you went from corner to corner
Yeah.
and then it set up the center. Yeah, I did not do that. I should have done that.
Well, as I'm blocking it in, I'm finding I need those lines.
Nice.
Like the vertical going straight up through the hay bale, and then the straight horizontal line is actually the horizon line back here in area 4.
Say it one more time.
The
Yeah,
the
area 4.
horizon line, the horizon line across the middle, this line
Yeah,
right
the
here.
middle of the rectangle.
Right. It hits the horizon point, the
Oh my
horizon.
God. Nice. Yes, I can see that. I mean, it looks like it to me right here. Yeah.
So that makes it really helpful to do this. I don't know, my faint pencil lines, but you see, I've got all of those same.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
blocked it all in, and now it looks easier to start making the right, the marks, the real mark.
And you started with the rectangle, right?
Yes.
Did you start with the haystack?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Good. So yeah, I think that's where I'm gonna begin. I'm gonna put in the haystack. And I'm gonna let the crest of the haystack, the crest of the base of the haystack, basically, I want this to be my anchor. So hopefully this is close to, yeah, I should have put this exactly in the middle for the zoom. We've got the middle. So, and just for the sake, I'm fully expecting the zoom. I'm fully expecting the move out, but I'm gonna try to keep things. I'm gonna try and keep it pretty close to being on the screen, as the way I have it right now. Yeah, and I'm glad I broke down the geometry of the haystack. So the haystack is going to have a height width ratio, which I think, in and of itself actually doesn't really matter that much. Any haystack can be any size. But as being, potentially, an anchor of the composition, I'm going to try and get that proportion, as right as possible. Now, immediately, like what I love about the haystack is that it sets up, our light source, and we have the light side of the haystack, and he actually gives us like a spiral of dots, and then we have the shadow side, which is great, and then you have the pyramid above it. It's like the tip of a bullet, but distinct sides, at least the distinct light side, the distinct shadow side. So that's kind of cool. And I don't really want to get into too much detail on the pencil because I am going to ink this thing. But getting that answer correct, I think, is going to matter. So we have this really gentle arc that runs down the side here. It's slightly interrupted by a, oh my God. Sorry, I didn't mean to curse like that. There's like where this arch to the left gets, kind of interrupted. It looks like there may be another path. And I was wondering, is this in fact the path that the sheep are on?
Oh yeah.
Which I don't think it's true, but anyway, I mean, it could be, there's another, this angle here that kind of brings your eye into the sheep. It also kind of brings your eye out. That could have a separate meaning. There's these, little layers of hills, which we may define later. There's this little bush that gives us the same light side, shadow side as our haystack. So that I don't want to get too far into that because we're this hill is, we're on the cusp of, scene 2, plane 2 and plane 3. This is the bottom of plane 1. So I'm gonna go back down. I think this is a little bit, it's a little bit dangerous. And I may have created a little bit more work for myself, but hopefully not. So I'm gonna get the inside edge of the path, and I'm gonna get the outside edge of the path and see how that, turns the corner, and we get the beginning of the mass of these sheep. And knowing the geometry at this stage is a lot easier. It's just less intimidating. A lot of times when you sketch without doing the analysis first, you are hit with it's an overwhelming amount of information, and you can get so easily seduced by these like wonderful sketches of these animals, and you get caught up in that, and then you're not seeing the whole. So the analysis and the oversimplification really allows for a chance of success. You have to be able to see the whole to integrate all of these different elements. I mean, we've got like, if you were to actually count the individual trees, there might be maybe like 3 main tree portraits, but you have dozens of smaller, more distant trees. When I say the 3 portraits, I was referring to this grouping here, this large beautiful dome, which is sort of almost like an echo of the geometry in the haystack, and then this bony tree here, which looks like part of the branches have died and some of the branches are still alive. Those are the 1, 2, 3. Those are the main 3 tree portraits. You could argue that this one that is dead is a 4th one, but that's really just like the bones. And then you have clusters of trees as you go back into space, both here and in the distant mountains. But those things happen so quickly, but there's still so many of them that by unifying them in their respective planes, it's going to be incredibly helpful. All right, so I didn't really talk much about this next thing here, but as the bank comes up, we acknowledge that it hit this axis point where it angles down, so the vector changes, the stream changes. You can kind of get the sense that the pond is round. There is this cluster of foliage or plants. I'm just going to acknowledge that, and then it looks like there might be a little docking station. I wonder if there's a little boat here. I don't know what this is, or it could be there's definitely a man-made cube, and it looks like some kind of curving mound, which could be, I was thinking, like the bottom of a boat turned upside down. I remember we had a metal boat that we'd leave at the edge of the pond at BCC, and we'd go fishing in there. And one day we came back and it wasn't there. It's kind of a bummer. All right, so now I've got kind of zone 2 kind of mapped out with our elements, and I still haven't committed to the edge. I'm like obsessively trying to get to the bottom of the picture, so I can go back to where I would probably feel most comfortable beginning, which is our the horizontal baseline. And then once that happens, I can then choose my left side and my right side. All right, so we've got the sheep, and then we have the space between the sheep and the plants. And we have this very elegant S curve that is the signature of nature. And then I'm trying to plot some of these heart-shaped leaves, which is very pleasant variety of angles, shooting out from the middle of this, or the center of the plant. Looks like we've got some grass clusters. This angles up right at the corner of the box of the sheep. And it's going to angle back down. And now with the plant there, we can establish the bottom. Okay. And see that what's left over with the, there's my right side, always subject to change. It might be a little bit too far out, but that's all right. At the left side. So I'm beginning to get the proportions of my rectangle, which I'm very thankful for. Hopefully the distortion isn't too great on our camera. Oh, look at these wonderful plants. Yeah, there's not a clear, because the plants themselves, some breach the outside of the S curve, and then, some define the edge of the S curve. And each one of them is set inside of the box. None of them break the picture plane. Okay, so that's straight there. I can move this. All right, we got the path. And then in the same way that this path arcs, angling to the left, we have these low hills that kind of angle up and to the right. Very nice. Then we have, and they seem steeper on the right. So we got this actual ridge that has texture, and then a little gully. And then we have the bank of the road, the side of the road, which is a little bit softer. And then this was this shadow that I kind of was second guessing whether there was this other road that went down here, but we can just call it a shadow for the time being, which allows for the placement of our kind of the first tree portrait as we head back. And that tree portrait is overlapped by the bones of the other tree, but look at how it really has like this blocky sides, these walls, and a flat bottom, and then it does look like it's a dome, but it's a dome in 4 clusters. So there's 1 cluster, 2 clusters, 3 clusters. Now let me look at the scale of all of this. And it does look like I've made my overall tree a little too large. I'm relating it back to the haystack. And I'm acknowledging that I did intend on making my whole composition a little bit smaller. So I'm just gonna do a little shrinky dink.
Excuse me.
On the tree. And the tree does come, if you run a horizontal on the base of the tree, it does come down lower than I'm giving it credit for. Now, of course, if I decided to keep the oversized original tree, I mean, who cares? It's just going to look like a magnificent tree. Notice the base of the trunks. The trunk is here. And then we get the ridge. And then that ridge is going to give home to the other tree. So I wonder why, in theory, this other tree would not be visible because it would be behind the tree. So this is a little interesting play of perspective and a violation actually of kind of a natural perspective. Could have been an afterthought, who knows? But there's that little bony tree that if you look at where the roots enter the ground, it's significantly further back. And this is why I suggested some beaver activity. There are these two tree stumps, and one of them has a, it's a low stump that has a triangular slice. So, the lumberjack may have come through and taken that down. But it could have been the beaver that lives in the pond. Oh my gosh, that would be so sweet. I was just thinking, what if this down here was actually a beaver den, and this was just like all these sticks and twigs collected on the banks of the pond. Spent a lot of time thinking about beaver. Right here.
That couldn't be part of the house, could it? Those dark, like window, they couldn't be windows and a door, could it?
It looks like a door.
Fuck, excuse me. And then does that look like part of a roof section? Oh, you can't see what you
There's
can't
the
see
roof
what I'm
of
saying.
a house. There's the roof of a house, right?
Yeah, so I see what you're saying. Like, could this be part of a roof too?
No, could that be a door or a window?
This could be a door.
That's a
That could
door.
be, that's a door. That's another door. It's
I
like
think
your
it's
shutters
two
are like-
doors.
And then
Yeah.
that, you see this little moment right here? That could
Yeah.
be a corner of a roof.
Another roof,
And
yeah.
that's an echo, and then that's a one that's further off.
Interesting. Okay.
I am choosing to see these as fallen trees from a beaver. I'm pulling my artistic vaccination pass. No, my artistic passport. That's what I should call it. Instead of an artistic license, we need artistic passports now.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but I think you're right. I love it. I hope, I want yours to be better. So I'm going to make them trees. I'm going to make them fallen trees, and I'm going to add that roof. So that was some of the gems I was praying for. Yeah, this
Nice,
little,
huh?
I love this little house, this little angled
Roof.
roof. Oh, did Tucker just weigh in? An angled roof.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Now the next tree portrait, as we've gone back here, is really, three trunks, one tree. So I'm gonna build my first one coming out of the bushes. And these bushes, you got to see the bushes as an excuse to create enormous amounts of depth in a very small space. So, I'm putting this bush on the ground, and then there's going to be another bush behind it, and another bush behind that, and another bush behind that, and another bush behind that. And then you get, the tree that's on the right. And you could do the right side darker than the left side. And you put some more bushes in there. So as those, trailed back, these bushes also lead from this front bush, all the way back to the house. And whether he's, completing the marks, of course, they're kind of like broken lines. I'm drawing more unbroken lines to show how that row of bushes can bring you, really far back in space. You can draw them without such, you don't have to clobber the concept over the head like a baby seal. Just keep it, finesse the baby seal, comfort the baby seal. It's the same concept. You don't have to kill it. And I'm doing it on purpose because so it can be seen. And left side, right side. I mean, he might as well, I mean, that's what's so great is that you see, not that he invented this idea because it occurs in nature, but you know, when you can find traces of Claude Lorrain in Millet or yeah, or in some of these other, and you know, this the French masters, the Dutch masters. All right, so I didn't forget, but I'm incorporating. I got seduced. You can see how I got seduced by the bushes, which I needed to be, but then the foliage. I needed to develop a unified front on the foliage, and so I'm going to use a separate piece of geometry. So I'm going to draw the flat bottom of the trees, and then I'm going to angle up, and I'm going to build just a very simple. You know, this like geometric, 5-sided geometric form. Sorry about that. It's so fun to just get lost in there. But I didn't want to, I don't want to get too, I don't want to get lost. I need to make it through the rest of the picture. Oh, wow, that's neat.
Correct.
All right, so I'm trying to get the frame over here. I mean, half of me, so we've got the first tree, which is the big one. We did the second tree, which is on the right, and then we have this third tree, which is the one that's like kind of partially alive, and then we did the third tree, which is the bony one, and then the one that's half alive. So I just saw the way that the zone 2 transitions to zone 3 is this little buffer zone of overlapping mounds. And that is a foreshadow of the overlapping, these overlapping mounds here. This is overlapping that, which is overlapping that, which is overlapping this bush. That layering is what we're going to need to do for, you know, basically the background to all of these trees. So I need to put this last tree in here, but I'm anticipating this mound here is going to be in front of this mound here, which then gives us that third mound. So the background to all of these trees is basically one mound in 3 parts. And then we're going to have a secondary mountain, and then a third mountain, and then a fourth mountain. So there's this like theme that begins all the way down here in like a non-essential area, and then it's, you know, exploded into you know, these, you know, moving back into these massive mountainous regions, which is awesome. So here's this, you know, emerging out of that small mound. We're going to get the next bunch. I feel a little bit bad here where I don't want to interrupt my exciting, you know, mountainous progression back in space, but I have to indicate that this other tree is there. Okay, so there's that tree. Then this is going to head up and across.
Ooh, excuse me.
Okay, so I'm losing some real estate here. And that tree happens here, and then there's the last mound. So this is the first mountain in, you know, in these 3 parts. So when I say 3 parts, there's the part that's on the left, which is going to have some foliage. The second mountain, which has basically a hill and a ton more foliage. And then the third one, which is just blank. The second mountain really gives us a background, a textural background for, you know, for the haystacks. We're going to get into that. And then let's do the mountains. So we're going to do mountain number 1, which is one triangular wedge, which of course will be subdivided. Mountain number 2, which makes a prism. So we get this edge and then the side of the prism. And then number 3, which is more of a repeat of number 1. But you could imagine that there's a side plane and a top plane. So good. The last part is going to be this self-contained, almost separate. So it's like a landscape within a landscape. You could actually, if you just cut this off, if you just cropped this down and moved the clouds down, this could be its own spectacular landscape. So he's got all this exciting stuff that's happening that you can kind of see in the foreground, but then it's a whole nother composition that is like the likes of Bierstadt. I mean, this is like a classic Bierstadt. So when we go past this layering of these mounds, we're going to do a little hill, a little valley. So it's like a little hill valley, line of trees, then distant, epically distant flat landscape like valley back here. And then we'll have these, layered mountains. And then we'll have to think about the clouds. It looks like the clouds are kind of in 3 parts, A, B, and then C. Well, that's strange. We also have 3 birds, A, B, and C. So these like numerical repetition, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. The mountains, 1, 2, 3, 4. Things grouped in 3s and 4s, making this really very clean. It's very clean, very well organized arrangement. Let's see how easy it is to go back in space, having kind of named those components. We got a hill valley, and then a row of clustered trees, bushes, trees, 3 bushes, 3 such trees. All right, well, we'll get the horizon line. And it looks like he divided the distant valley maybe into 2 parts. There could be a stream, like almost like a river back there. We'll have 1 low hill. Medium-sized hill in 2s, and then 1 large mountain in the distance. So into it. I needed to put this tree in here so that I could plot out my clouds. A variety of trees in each one. Okay, so you can't help but get caught up in these things. So I got these clouds that are dissipating on the left. I got this major cloud in the middle that's puffy, and then we have a smaller separate cloud that's on the right, also puffy. And now with those clouds instituted, I can lay in the top of my picture. I don't want to say I'm going rogue, but I really am desperate to get some pen marks in here. And I think I got there.
Yeah, but can you do something with the sheep before you get into the ink?
Yeah, I was thinking that too. The sheep
Yeah.
look,
To me,
mean,
those are that's the scary part, is the sheep.
that's scary. Yeah, I can do all this other stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And I have room where I can actually do that. Oh, goodness.
And then maybe you can talk about how would you proceed to ink this? Would you move from foreground to background? Would you go from, is there a process that you would follow, a method?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So I'm gonna pull this into the screen. So the answer is square. So the way that a traditional landscape would be painted would be the way that a landscape would be painted is that you would start from the clouds, and then you'd do the distant mountain. So you do the clouds in the relationship to the distant mountain because it's in like lowest contrast. And then you would make this one a little bit brighter. This would be like basically blue. It would be a light blue, a sky blue. And this one might be a little bit still blue, but like picking up a couple greens. And then here you can actually start using like, greens and blue greens. And then, the more you get closer, the richer and the darker the foliage. Because the principle of landscape is that the further an object is away, the more atmosphere is between the viewer and the object, and the atmosphere makes things cool. It blues things out. And the most extreme examples of that are like Leonardo da Vinci pictures. Like if you look at the background in the Mona Lisa, the landscape is blue, like pure blue. So you make a really, really good point. I'm glad you brought this up, and I will go in. I am going to get into the sheep here in a moment, but I think it should be inked in that same fashion, because imagine if you go really heavy. I started with the haystack, because the haystack is like the middle ground for the ink. You know what I mean? It's lighter than everything in the foreground, and it's darker than everything else in the background. So I was like almost like calibrating my pen by doing the haystack, when I jumped into it. But the way it should be done is you want to start with your finest marks in the clouds off in the distance. So you want to like almost understate that. And then, this could be darker. You don't want to make that any darker than it is. This could be lighter, this could be darker, but you want to kind of set up, establish one or the other. And I think, in theory, you could start in the front and get that really bold. But I would start with like the most delicate areas, and then kind of traverse forward. Even though we started at the foreground and kind of worked our way back into the landscape in terms of the drawing, in terms of the value refinement, I would start from the back and move forward, and that's based off a painting principle.
Right, because you can always add darks.
Inking. What's that?
You can always punch the darks. You can always add darks.
Punch the darks. You can't pull back from.
Thanks. Yeah. Okay, thank you. That's great.
You're welcome. Oh, those are nice. Not helpful. There's a sheep. We need to do the big sheep so that we can abbreviate small sheep. I could remember what number it was. We really went through a lot. There we go. All right, cool.
You know, he almost put a shepherd in our picture.
Say that again.
He almost put a shepherd in our picture. There's a ghosted person on that road, on that path.
Holy shit. Nice, Adele. Really is.
See right above the sheep?
Yeah, yeah. He's got his shepherd's staff too.
Yeah.
What?
Right here.
Oh my gosh. I didn't see that. Okay, between that and the
Yeah.
Sister Act, I'm
I was
not.
gonna say mine, like, if there's no more mind, there's no more, I've got no more brain. No more brain.
Oh, that's crazy. Well, they have this kind of pointy snout, you know.
Yeah. So let's do this.
Yeah, man.
I kind of figured it out.
See, look at that little, yeah.
So here we go. This guy. Nice. Okay. And this is crazy. And I don't know if this is how they are actually drawn, but this is how this guy. This is how I don't know sheep. I really don't. So this is basically just going off of
A little hump
the
back.
main principal structure. I wanted it to be a cylinder, but it's actually not. It's actually a block that's turned into like a diamond shape. So this is like the main look that we're going for. So there's this harsh underplane. You see that? And then these will angle in here. I suspect here the neck, there's this like, the shoulders is like the curve, of that diamond, and then it dips down, and then we're going to get a trapezoid for the neck, and it's like unbelievably like long, like crazy long. So when I say trapezoid, I mean it's wider at where the neck attaches to the body, and then it's narrower as the head hits it. Now, we'll talk about the face in a second. These back legs, these are also trapezoids. So, or trapezoidal. So you have this, the front plane and then the back plane, very wide, as the leg comes out of the hips. And then this gets you the ankle. So this is actually the knee, technically. Knee to ankle, ankle to the ball of the foot, and then the hoof. Rounded belly. Now, the really most awkward thing that I can see about these legs is that it's almost like they're like these little drumsticks that are just like, squeezing out of the, Oh, hold on a second. Oh, I figured it out now. Okay, so with the arms, it goes shoulder to elbow. And so then that's where this weird part is. You want to find the elbow, by literally drawing the L. So if you draw that L, then it goes elbow to wrist. And then the wrist pinches in to the knuckle. And that's where the hoof is now attached. Here, you're not seeing it. It's like this is like the, it angles back into space. And then you get this, little knuckle, and then you get the hoof. This one's got like a super wide base, which may come into play. Yeah, look at how, really awkward the front legs and the back legs are. But that's how he's got it. Now for the face, which is like the best part. And I'm going to look for these things when we draw the small one. So the ears come off to the side, and then you have this little, think about lamb chop. You've got this like poof of hair on the top of the head.
Right.
And then you have this trapezoidal, relatively broad, front of, from forehead to nose, like very broad, wide. The eyes are very widely separated. The eyes being on the side of the head. And then we're going to get the snout. So you get these two little, like an arrow for the nose, and then the snout into the mouth, this little chin, and then it goes into the jaw. So I think it's a strange broad head. I'm going to put some eyelashes so you can tell where the eye is on the other side, and then maybe even show a little bit of the ear on this other side. The ears look really small. The eyes look like kind of big. And then I think I may have made mine wound up looking more like a cow, because I think the snout is really kind of small and delicate on a lamb. So I gave this jawline, which is more like a cow or a horse, and now we have to like find out what makes a lamb. What are the things that say lamb and accentuate those things. So that's the structure of the lamb. Now we got to like, the fur, the wool is, it's like he's like a little cloud, so there's these little cloud shaped poofs, going around. And I didn't do the value, but the light's coming from the left. I mean, maybe the tone would be helpful. I don't know. I'm going to put it in here just to see if we can soften up. I was really heavy on the structure of the geometry that made up the lamb, but I think what, oh, there's a little lamb's tail. Oh, look at a little puffy tail. Okay,
That's the sweetest lamb.
it is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
You get the shoulders a little bit high, the pelvis is a little bit high, and then I want there to be a little dip, but that tends to say cow too. So there's similarities.
You're right.
Let's see what this other guy looks like. Oh my God, he's so funny. He's so funny. Look at this other one. I mean, the other guy, he gives us, we still have the same general shape. Like I said, that diamond shape, but the one above, I'm drawing the darker guy. The wool just becomes these rivets of bracelet lines, helping to describe the cylinder. He's such a little egg shape. And then maybe the neck is almost like a long dog. I don't know, it's almost like a dog's neck, but a little bit longer. Poofy hair, little baby ears, big eyes, and then and this little snout. I mean, I'm really trying to, I don't know much about lambs. I really don't, or sheep, whatever you want to call There's this little leg that comes forward, same position, elbow to that little knee. He's lifting his leg up. Oh, and then they do have, the hooves are split toed. So that's super important. I mean, I don't know. I'm not even looking at the other ones, but yeah, that part of what makes a sheep a sheep is that he's got the split toe. I think there's something in the Bible about like, you're not allowed to eat like fork-toed animals or something like that. Old Testament stuff. But there are these two toes, which is unlike a, it's more like a pig, unlike the hooves of a cow or a horse. Definitely unlike a horse. Oh, look at that little. I like the cylinder. I mean, you can't make this sheep, puffy, fluffy enough for me. Fluffy. These vertical bracelet lines. And actually, now that I'm looking back, the first one that we did, a lot of those tick marks, they are arranged on this bracelet, on the vertical bracelet lines. So even though they're like more spaced out and not as prominent, the infrequent notes that suggest it are still designed along the same, using the same system. So doing the darker one has kind of like paid off a little bit. And then instead of being the diamond, it's becoming, the cylinder. Okay, thanks for that, but that's not helpful. Look at this. Oh, this one's a ram. I was like, what's the matter with this one? Look, he's got this long tail. Or do they all have long tails? And I'm just missing it. Because that guy looks like he's got a long tail. Maybe their tails are a little bit longer, a little like half. I think maybe they come a little bit longer. I think that is true. I'm thinking about a lamb. I think the tail goes a little bit longer. I'm thinking about my dog, Bella. She has a short tail, but she's also a lamb. Oh my gosh, I drew a bunch of Bellas. All right, that was good. We had to do the old-fashioned decode. Now let's put our little theory to the test. So we'll go here. All right, we'll do the corner. I'm going to start with the body of the cylinder. Little fluffy belly, little trapezoidal back leg. Its ankle comes down, and then he gives us the split toe. The foreground, we have this little elbow. He's like not lifting this leg up, but you can still do the backwards L for the elbow, and then they'll come down into the leg, and then we'll get the split toe. We have the shoulders that already exist with the body that we pointed out, and then the neck is quite long and a trapezoid, and then we'll do a little poof for the top of the head, an ear, and then we'll do the eye, the big eye, a soft jaw into the snout, and maybe I can put a little water line there.
Mine looks like a little horse.
Mine still looks like a cow.
Yeah.
So we got to adjust, maybe make the face smaller.
And my neck is too long.
But make them fluffy, for crying out loud.
Oh, and my legs are too long. Oh dear, poor thing.
Yeah, mine
Right.
is. He's
Split, we got a split. Well, the nice thing is that if you screw up the first one, y'all, you got so many opportunities for draw so many of them. This is the best. By the way, this is the best one right here. This is the one that's behind. And even that one doesn't really look. So it's got a rounded tush. squared off at the shoulder because there's a real dip. And this guy's fluffy as anything. So some of these sheep I know for a fact are white, but they have black limbs. So we got this fluffy arm, and then I mean, if you overdid the leg,
Mhm.
you know, in terms of the darkness, that might help you out. And, you know, I could look at some types of breeds or whatever, and then the neck comes up, and now we got the poofiness for the head, and the face is really much more triangular. This guy almost looks like a mouse. You know, but in context, it might be all right. You know, that's what I mean. It's not, if it's not, because of the scale of the drawing, you're never going to think it's a mouse. You know what I mean? So there's enough. It might look like a mouse because I'm drawing it at the miniature scale, but in context, it'll read more like a sheep.
Can I show you mine and get some help, please?
Yes. Oh, this guy's got a long tail. I think mine look like sheep.
Yeah, they do.
But look at how his don't. His look, I mean, they look enough like sheep. I mean, we have to get enough to believe it. You know, we have to get close enough. And I'm looking at his, and the more I'm analyzing it, you know, the key, one of the big keys is like the neck, and the shoulder's really round, and the neck comes off of it lower. That's like a huge one. Poofiness. I mean, here, we could just go like this. What if we just did this? Little black triangle. And then black legs. See how that just looks like a sheep right now? Like my
Yeah,
sheep
that's
looks like a
classic.
sheep. Classic.
Classic.
So we gotta, that's like that's like merge the two. Like it can't, you know, they have to. I mean, if you take this out of the context, if you take this, like, if you look at it, they look like a bunch of hyenas. That is a hyena.
Yeah, they do.
Look like a band of hyenas. Now this one, you know, that one back there does look a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't find hyenas attractive or cute in any way.
That you're just.
I think it's
You
because
just
they're
don't
bending-
understand them, Stacy. You
bending
don't
their head.
understand the nature of the hyena. If you
Well,
understand,
perhaps that could be
You
true.
want to text me? You want to send me a photo?
Sure. Oh, let me make it fluffy first. I can just hear it. Well, you didn't make it fluffy, did you?
I love my lambs.
Oh,
I really might just make a sea of cartoon lambs. Like I might change the flock. I'm gonna make a flock of cartoon lambs.
My legs are too long. I've just created some kind of animal that I can't explain.
yeah, I mean,
Did you guys draw these with me, or did you just watch?
I drew mine before you drew yours.
But did you draw the big ones?
I'm
Yeah,
not sure what I did.
Okay. Are you able? Did that give you the intel that allow you to correct the ones that you did before the lesson?
are you thinking that they were incorrect to begin with?
Well, you said you created some other kind of animal. Doesn't mean they're not correct. It just means
I'm
that
just giving you I'm giving you heck.
I know. I
See,
apologize.
here, see, these are, can you,
Okay, let me stop the share. I think you guys have to see.
You think we need a little,
Let's do a little quick. Yeah, I mean, I'm curious how much we got done. Pin. Maureen's pinned. Okay, China. Yeah, you're good. Oh, they look just
yeah,
like
look
lamb.
let me see your little lamb.
It's
Hold
almost
on, Rainey.
can you
still a
see
little,
it?
it's still a little blurry, but it's your camera. It's not.
I've got a crap camera, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's
'Cause you
so
guys are very
pretty,
clear.
Rainey.
They
Rainey,
look
yours
great.
look like sheep.
Yeah, they look
Well,
exactly like sheep.
I
What are you
feel like
talking
they kind of do.
They look more
They
like sheep than
totally-
his. That looks more like a sheep than his.
Yeah, they totally look like sheep.
Oh, they're all drinking out of the water. It's so cute.
You know, if you just look at his marks, they're just lines and squiggles, and if you just kind of combine them all, you can make them look like animals. I don't know. I
Well,
just kind of copied how he did.
I think you just summed up art right there.
I don't know, Renee. I tried
Just a
that.
bunch. It's just a bunch of squiggles, and if you combine them, you make them look like animals. That, my friend, is what we're here to do. Adele, you want to show yours?
Yeah. My sheep are really funny.
Nice. Really nice.
Oh,
Oh,
Adele.
and the one at the one on the right, the far right is the right. Yes, the right. That's that one
See,
looks great too. It's
That's
like
exactly,
right in a
yeah,
row.
you nailed it. Nice.
Yeah.
I do think that we should put a shepherd like right in the middle of them.
Yeah, I think so.
Not even in the background, but like standing in the middle.
Yeah.
Stacy,
Pulling
Yeah,
up,
can you-
pulling up the rear.
So I
Did
Can
think
you-
you hold that up again, Adele?
the trick
was
is
a-
getting all the little faces into the water. Then, on that first row, and then it's
Thank
easy
you.
after.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Getting all their little faces.
Yeah, well, never mind. Just don't laugh, Trevor.
I'm not gonna laugh. What are you talking about?
Laughing.
I was looking
Oh,
at
wow.
Oh, good.
That's really coming together.
holy crap.
Right.
So
Oh,
so you did it a little smaller and look how much further you got. Yeah, that looks so good. I love your
And
island.
your water totally looks like water, more
Yeah.
so than his.
Oh, good.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Thank you. So doesn't that look like a hyena? How do what do I do?
No, it does not
Um,
look like a hyena.
I would replace I think it's because the ears are pointy and big. I would add the white puff on his head and
And I think-
maybe not even put the ear in.
Longer legs.
What white puff on the head?
Like the lamb chop puff.
You know, that cross the brow, that puffy little bang.
The little
No.
frill on the forehead.
The
Yeah.
bangs.
It's a bang.
Thanks.
And the legs are longer on a lamb than they are.
You see
In
him?
my drawing?
I think
They're-
you need to make your legs longer
Oh, I just shortened them. Okay.
Longer or skinnier.
or skinnier. Yeah.
And then maybe make the body a little puffier. So you get like, if you make the body puffier, then the legs become smaller. If you make the legs smaller, the body becomes puffier. And if you did both of them, then it'll look like a fat lamb.
Okay, I think that. Okay, thank you.
So Trevor, I know we need to go, but I tried to make my markings light so I could go back over it in ink. Is that
Yeah.
kind of what you're thinking that we should?
Yes,
Okay.
that's what I always say. And that's what
Alright.
I actually, that's actually what I did.
Okay, good.
Oh, yeah,
but-
lamb have like rounded ears.
Yeah,
So-
that's not a bad idea either. Maybe just, we have a zillion photos of lambs at our fingertips.
And literally, look at his drawing. That back row is just circles in a line. You know?
No, yeah, yeah,
It's-
they draw
even though
themselves.
you totally know what it is. It doesn't look anything like a lamb. It's just, they're all kind of melded into a square.
It is weird how you just do
The backs.
yeah, that's
Just
it.
their backs and
like
around
little
it.
like little rounded. Their heads
Uh-huh.
the background heads are way rounder.
Right.
May I see yours again, Trevor?
Which one?
Your, how many did you do?
Well, I haven't actually added, unfortunately, I haven't added any of the sheep to my real one.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he drew his sheep separate.
You
His
did a-
lamb.
Should I be able to Oh, wait. Okay, can you hold that a little closer and down a skosh? How about a little, yeah, and freeze.
Doesn't work either.
Okay, now how about the one with your fish, with your sheep?
What fish? I missed the
know.
fish.
You know,
Fish drawing.
We could have a fish jumping out of the water.
Oh my gosh, we do need to do that.
That
Oh,
would be
yeah.
so fun.
oh yeah.
Slow
Oh,
Yeah, there's those. And then there's
oh.
those.
okay, I'd like to take a pic of that. If you could move your thumb, thank you. Wonderful.
If.
Oh, I love those sheep.
There, I'll put them where they're supposed to go, right here.
No, no, no. Didn't you do another drawing with sheep in the drawing? Maybe I'm imagining things.
Ahem.
All right, there's the fish. Jumping into the water. Might need some help on the fish.
I think that's an adorable fish.
I think so too.
I wish I'd done a fish.
You can still do it.
No, I don't think I can move on until I've done my sheep. But then again, maybe I should ignore my sheep and come back to the sheep. So I don't know.
All right, well, I am going.
All right,
That was
Okay. I'm gonna say
Not-
goodbye.
not the smoothest episode ever, but
But it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah.
Perspective.
we got
Thank
that.
you so much,
We got
Trevor.
down to it eventually.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
looking
yeah,
forward-
yeah.
I'm looking forward to getting some ink on this. I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, me too. All
I'll work on it as well.
Okay.
right.
Thank
Would you
you,
use
Trevor.
different pens for the different line weights? Yeah, right.
Yeah, I would lay them out and just do a quick experiment.
I
Yeah.
was just gonna do all black. Are you talking about doing some color too?
No,
Again?
no,
Just like
They're
a
just-
super
they're-
thin, yeah, like a thin line versus a
Okay,
thick line versus a
Yeah.
really fine line. You
yeah,
can buy like these sets. You can buy these sets of ink pens from Michael's or whatever.
yeah.
This is a lot of steps. I'm a little,
You can
I'm
go-
gonna just breathe. I'm gonna
or you
breathe.
can use one fine liner and then sort of beef it up as you get.
totally.
Okay, okay.
I'll send out a memo.
Yes.
I thought you said there'd be no homework. It's kind of like
Yeah.
George Bush. I thought you said there'd be no math. All right,
Okay.
gotta go,
I
you
will,
guys.
yeah. Send pics
Have
if
a
you
good
guys did
week.
it.
All right.
Ciao.